With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin. 2 new shellfish maps will become effective on the 1st of the year. During last night's Conservation Commission meeting, which lasted nearly 3 hours, the board approved a new shellfish rating map for Barnstable Harbor and 3 bays. Shellfish biologist Tom Marcotti explains a bit about the maps at the meeting last night.
They were printed out just as they are here. Use your own individual knowledge and the best of your ability to determine in each designated shoreline area if it is significant or non-significant as shellfish habitat. For the purposes of this study, consider the substrate and marine environment significant for shellfish in any portion of or all of the intertidal shoreline area between approximately 200 feet landward and the subtidal shoreline area approximately 200 feet seaward of the mean low water line for each mapped area. And we broke this up into segments. We couldn't go too small, we couldn't go too big. So we went from kind of a reference point to reference point, from this point to that creek, from that creek to that pier to this pier to that. Something that had a substantial quality of sameness to the area. And some of the areas are over 500 feet. So we couldn't break up the bay into 10-foot sections. So we had to go from pretty much geographical markers out there. And then for areas in, say, for instance, the Mills River, where the 200 feet crosses the river, well, just consider to the midpoint of the river, or where the habitat leaves. And then, and as a note, the concept of significant shellfish habitat is not definitely defined in research studies by even the leading scientific and regulatory agencies and institutions that study and manage marine shellfisheries. So use your subjective opinion to determine if any particular area is significant based on your unique use of or historical knowledge of an area. So for instance, the participants in the group, we had a representation of commercial interests, recreational interests, resource manager interests, like for instance, people from our department, people from the Division of Marine Fisheries, and they rated them on different criteria. We thought that was a balanced way of looking at it. A couple of fellows were even older gentlemen, like Tysto Ranter and Norm White, the oldest commercial shellfisherman in the town. He's been here since the 50s, mid-50s. And just that historical knowledge is very interesting, you know. And so taking that all into account, we tried to address what the original, like I say, back to the original peer committee wanted. And so it is subjective. But I think it's a tool in terms of what the Conservation Commission wanted, needed, deriving from what the LCPs originally wanted years ago, and that is that areas that are considered significant shellfish habitat by official agencies like our department or the Division of Marine Fisheries, it should be implemented to save habitat, to protect any shellfish habitat out there remaining, you know. And then, of course, you know, that developed through the LCP in the 80s. We're going back to the 70s, the 60s, and so on and so forth. And so here was, and it incrementally is developing. And to address our liens, what I see happening is, of course, here we are 10 years later. I mean, a decade later. And still the habitat is, these studies, all these big studies that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, all say, you should protect your habitat. So I think this is a tool, and I know it's very subjective, it's very unscientific in a sense, but it is user group versus user group. And, it's an important step, I think, to address the original LCP requests, local comprehensive plans, and CRMC requests that they have all determined. So it's a start anyway.
The board did approve those new maps. They will become effective January 1st, 2012. Another item on last night's lengthy agenda dealt with a notice of intent from the West Barnstable Fire District to increase parking and upgrade stormwater management facilities at 2160 Meeting House Way.
We went through a site plan review on December 15th. As part of that review, in addition to what you see in front of you, for the parking and the stormwater management improvements, the plans that were filed to you and showed the dumpster being relocated on the southerly side of the property. As part of that site plan review, we were requested to relocate that dumpster. It's being relocated to the northeasterly corner. You can see the dumpster location is here. It is outside of the 100-foot buffer, but as part of that relocation, the trailhead extension would need to be relocated. What currently this plan that you're seeing before you here was prepared by Rick Finuccio's office, Brown Lindquist, and they're showing that the trail extension, which was on the plan that we submitted to you, showing it right along the parking lot, they're showing it meandering around the relocated dumpster. I think there's some flexibility in the placement of that trailhead extension. Chief Maruka said he would be more than happy to coordinate with Rob and his staff in the field as far as the final location of that. Again, it's just a soft path. We anticipated that it would be probably a mulch path just for access from the trailhead.
Perhaps there could be some signage near the parking so that people would be able to see where to go in terms of access to the conservation area, because the dumpster location sort of screens the opening to the conservation trail.
We have 31 organizations that are not part of the fire department that use our building to some extent over the course of the last 2-year period. Some of these meetings are relatively small. For instance, the Barnstable Agricultural Commission meets monthly in our building, and it is typically the 5 agricultural commissioners and 1 visitor, and they take up 6 parking spaces. The firefighters at the that are on duty at the station are probably taking up 5 or 6 parking spaces, and we're okay at that moment. Add a second meeting to the building, and we're peaked out. It's interesting because this was parking when we did our study and we talked to the public. Parking was the single number 1 issue that came up on everybody's lips. What needs to be done at our site? The fire department has changed dramatically since this building was built. When this building was built, we had 1 full-time employee. We had probably 25 volunteers. Today, we have 7 full-time staff. We have about 45 volunteers. We also have some part-time staff that use the building. Holding a staff meeting, while we rarely have 100% attendance, it fills the lot. So there is a need for parking spaces here. We also use the parking lot for training. And so when we bring our staff in for training purposes, we need to clear a section of the lot to operate the training. And so those parking spaces don't have vehicles in them. And finally, there's been discussion about the vehicles that don't move much, that park in these spaces. Well, they have to park somewhere. They're either going to be inside the building if they fit, or they're going to be outside. We have 2 parking configurations at the fire department, 2 general parking configurations. Our winter configuration, which we're in now, which is where we double up some of the space inside the building and we kind of jam everything in, and a summer configuration where we move at least one of the tanker trucks or the brush trucks outside into that back corner parking space.
The board ultimately approved the plan with conditions relating to infiltration rates and environmental controls. You can watch the full Conservation Commission meeting online at town.barnstable.ma.us. The town offers a safe, easy, and environmentally friendly way to view, print, and pay online real estate, personal property tax, and motor vehicle excise tax bills. Actual real estate and personal property tax bills for Barnstable residents will be mailed by December 30th of this year, with payments due in February and May. Find out about the online payment method at the town's website. Follow to the tax department link. All commercial and business alarm users need to renew their burglar alarm registration prior to December 31st to avoid costly fines. Forms to do so are available online at barnstablepolice.com. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.